I can hear it now. Fans take the field, and out of that eastern tunnel pour 215 well-drilled, well-disciplined Michigan bandsmen. They pour over the eastern sideline, they pour in the big lockdown, and they play the greatest college fight song ever written.
Nice new highlights.
Yeah, you like that?
Yeah.
JJ's pointing it right at you at the end there, Seth. He's saying this one's for you, big guy.
Yeah. Can I hit back yet on the YouTube? No. Oh, you got people who are watching this. They can hit back and watch that.
They can watch it again.
Yeah.
So I've seen the same story again and again. Here's my commercial. Lots of MGO blog, lots of Michigan fans who are outgrowing their house because they keep reproducing. I think maybe I don't know what has happened in 10 months ago. There'll be some preseason football excitement. I'm not sure, but
is it a little early to be telling people like if something's happened?
Rates are a little bit better. People are buying a little bit bigger houses, selling the other one. Love to help with all of it. The mortgage, the sale, the buying, make it easy. Speaking of making stuff easy, how about an easy transition, Seth, from maybe some similar defensive schemes since we had the mentor of some of these guys?
Yeah. All right. So I wanted to get into Wink Martindale. Don Martindale is his real name, but there was a famous guy named Wink, and they started calling him that when he was a linebacker as a kid. He was a truck driver for a little bit. He's from Trotwood, Madison. He's coached under a lot of people that we know. Basically, everywhere he went is a place that Greg Madison went, like either 2 years before or 2 years after. It's weird. It's like Ravens and Notre Dame and all over the place. Anyway. He's always been like a 3-4 guy. And there's been kind of like a discussion going on because Colin, he and I are friends on Twitter. He's a really smart guy, watches a lot of film, charts things, good friend of the blog, but was like a little down on the hire because he really likes getting these young guys who have like new ideas. And he was talking about on a coaching level, the differences between Wink Martindale and some of the guys who coached under him. Now, if you're coming to this new, Wink Martindale is Michigan's new defensive coordinator. Michigan went with the Ravens, right? Michigan was going to a Raven system. The Raven system was Wink Martindale's system. When we went to the Ravens and said, okay, we want the Ravens guy, we got Wink Martindale's right-hand man, Mike McDonald, who was Wink used to be the linebackers coach. He was raised to defensive coordinator. From that, Mike McDonald became the linebackers coach. When McDonald came back, he actually took Wink's job. There's been a lot of discussion over why Wink lost the job. Pretty simple to me that he was up for a new contract. He was going to be really expensive because he was one of the top defensive coordinators in the country. And John Harbaugh is savvy and was like, I can get Mike McDonald for much less, and he wants out of college.
Yeah, and what looks like a home run hire, anytime you have a guy that had success in the NFL, multiple stops in the NFL as defensive coordinator, position coach, you have to feel pretty good about it. Wink Martindale, obviously with a great track record of getting hired by big-time programs and in the NFL and now coming to college, so you have to like it.
Yeah, but there are differences, and I wanted people to understand that there are differences because there's this crazy idea out there that Wink Martindale is like going back to Don Brown because they hear 5-man pressures and cover one behind it, and they go, "Oh no, that's Don Brown." It's not. It's really not. And we'll get into what Wink does, but we talked about a lot of this stuff because we were looking at Wink's defense when we hired Mike McDonald. We're like, what's this Raven stuff we do? And a lot of it's called, like, we call it the amoeba. And sometimes they went with 5-1-5 personnel, so they had 5 defensive linemen. And I can show you. We'll skip through my thing a little bit. I wanted to get right into the so we'll come back to this, but like let's see who's on the field right now, right? This is his Giants team last year. I think this is the second to last week of the season against the Rams. Right? He's got 3 defensive tackles, all over 300 pounds, right? 2 defensive ends, both of them pretty big. Kayvon Thibodeau plays bigger than 258. Like he plays like he's 278, 290, right? So 2 big defensive ends, like Aiden Hutchinson style defensive ends, right? They got 1 linebacker out there, a couple safeties who are interchangeable, and a couple cornerbacks, right? I wanted to get that out of the way because that's kind of who was on the field there, and that might be something we see a lot more this year. Now, it's something Mike McDonald tried a little bit at Michigan, but they went back to the 2-4-5 with it was just the personnel that they had, but there was also a subtle shift. Wink Martindale likes to blitz more. And that was part of the idea of this defense in the first place. We're going to see this is in 2020 against the Chiefs here. And the idea was, all right, try to find where we left the hole. Now, the Chiefs are really good at moving guys around, getting a look at the coverage. But the idea is not all these guys are coming, right? The idea is we're going to threaten. You don't know who's dropping back. You don't know where to look. Chiefs figured out because they're basically going to go back to cover 3. That's their base coverage, just like Michigan's coverage now. So the go back to mama is the same exact thing. But you get just more pressure, just more of these, I'm going to get right up in your face. So this is a cover 0 look, right? We got no safety up high. These guys are over here. And they're bringing all sorts of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys, right? This is what Wink's going to do. He likes to get more pressure. He's got another linebacker here kind of coming in who makes the play. He wants to force this stuff to go quicker.
Yeah, he likes to force stuff to go quicker. He likes to disguise his blitzes as well. I mean, that's one of the home with the Ravens and when he was with the Giants is bringing pressure from confusing spots, which is highly effective in college if you do it right. You don't leave too many guys on the island. It hurts though if you got a Marvin Harrison Jr. running against somebody one-on-one.
Right.
But he likes to bring the heat and it likes to mix it up. But it's not all out Don Brown. We're just sending everybody at the quarterback praying to God that it's a wounded duck in the air.
Well, the idea is Don Brown stuff worked really well until he ran up against a team that could just out-talent him, right? I think that Brian Day won the metagame there because until then, college quarterbacks were not good enough to if you had the right talent, you could just roll up your guys and this guy's in cover 1, go and beat him, right? That's not the way that Wink thinks, though. That is not how the Ravens defense that Michigan's been running thinks. But this is another example of Wink that you don't really see from McDonald or Minter, right? See all these guys bunched up the line of scrimmage, no safety deep, okay?
Yeah, I mean, there's 8 guys on the line of scrimmage, basically.
Yeah. And this is 3rd and 6 now, right? So they're telling Josh Allen, one of the better quarterbacks in the country, right? Who's got Stephon Diggs to throw to. Here, go hit your guy, right? Because they gave him that single look. He throws it downfield, and what happens? There's 2 guys on him.
Yeah.
Right? And it's not because they were playing cover 1. It's not someone who's up there. Look where he came from. So he sees him dropping. He thinks he's going to stop here in a zone over there, which I don't have the all-22. But he looks over there. He goes, "Oh, I got man on my best guy." As soon as he goes in, and nope, that guy made it all the way back over there. So this is the kind of thought processes that we see from Wink. And here's that play I was kind of showing you earlier, right? Motion to try to get an idea of who's out there. And then the idea is to try to kind of fuse you where you're going to be, but they're still going back to mama. It's still most of the time, even if guys are coming from different directions and whatnot, yes, bringing 5-man pressure, technically cover 1 or cover 3 behind it. It's kind of hard to tell, but I think this is kind of a cover 3. But
but it's a lot of guess the 5, Seth. It's a lot of guess which 5 because you see even on that play, whether 55, I'm not sure D-line, D-end or linebacker, but you got a big man out there who you think he's rushing. He's leaning forward, but he's dropping back.
Yeah, so that's the defensive end, right? I think I was showing this one to you, and I'll try to bring it up again. I remember how to. Yeah. So
yeah,
we're talking about this is a 5-1 front, so you're going to have a little bit of you're not going to have the best matchups there sometimes because they're using this weird personnel. So that is one thing we might see differently as well.
Yeah.
What I wanted to show you when I was drawing these up, though, do you remember that first play we watched where they get the tight end out there? The come to mama is still cover 3. But you see, it's really hard when everyone's bunched up on the line of scrimmage here to figure out who's going to be where. you kind of mess with the quarterback's reads, and the quarterback has to go and find them. Now that zero blitz, same thing. He might want, but the idea is he runs these zero blitzes. He runs all these blitzes and cover one and stuff like that, not because he is philosophically cover one. If he runs the cover one because he's got to do the blitzes that actually, that he's threatening, right? He can't just threaten all the time.
Right.
Now, one of the differences we saw between where McDonald and Minter took their defenses since they left Wink, and defenses under Wink that people all know and love, is really the amount of pressure. So here's the Ravens five. How often they're on passing, on dropbacks. Okay, so regular passes. How often the Ravens rushed 5 or more, right? And you see it over half the time, right, back in 2019.
Right.
And this is the year that everyone got to know Wink. Everyone started talking Wink. He was the hot thing because he was blitzing all the time, right? So, and you've seen he went down since then. Mike McDonald took it to another level, right? Mike McDonald's only blitzing 5 guys 22% of the time. What he's doing and what Minter was doing a lot more at Michigan were sim pressures, where they're going to show you those blitzes, right? Where they bring the guys down, and then they're going to drop guys back, and they run a lot more of off coverages. So here's Michigan's 5+ rush rate. Don Brown, you can see, wasn't that all that different 2018 and 2019 than he was in 2021. 2020 doesn't exist. But Mike
Seth,
McDonald and Wink Martindale are the same. Look at that.
What a part of that with Wink is, he got that reputation, and sometimes it's like poker. You can bluff all you want, but if nobody ever thinks that you're going to play a hand, they're not going to worry about your bluffs, right? So if you get the reputation that you're going to be bringing the heat, they're going to prepare for it. They're going to trust the sim pressures are potentially real, and they're going to make those adjustments. And so, do you think Martindale still has that gunslinger reputation, or do you think that's
I think
worn
he
off?
does. I think the difference is really in personnel. So, we were wondering, what's going on with this 2019 and 2020 seasons when they're blitzing all the time. This is the origin of this system that they had. What they realized is that defensive linemen were really expensive, especially those edges, those 6'5", 250-pound dudes who can just pass rush, like mad dogs. Like Josh Uches are really expensive. Okay,
right.
So they went cheap up in the front. I don't know if you can see the numbers here, but other than guys they had signed for a while, like Derek Wolfe was only $3 million a year. Pernell McPhee was less than $1 million a year. Matt Judon blew up, so he got expensive. But they really were taking money out of the front seven and starting to put money into the defense secondary. And Marlon Humphrey, first rounder in 2017. Marcus Peters was a superstar back then, right? First rounder in 2015. Right. Jimmy Smith, first rounder in 2011. And then they went and spent a whole bunch of money on Earl Thomas, who was like the best cover one free safety in the country. And at that time, too, people were like, oh, they're probably doing more cover one. That's not at all what they were doing. What they were doing is having Earl Thomas and then Deshaun Elliott and subsequent safeties that they would get. They would have them show up in all sorts of different places. It was a very safety-intensive system. And then the cornerbacks could be left on an island because they were so good. So if you wanted to blitz more, what you had to do was have Will Johnson level cornerbacks. And if Jair Hill blows up and he can hack it, and they have him and Will Johnson out there, and whoever's a nickel, right, Jaden McBurrows or whatever, and all those guys are that great, and we have the best group of safeties in the country, then they're probably going to blitz some more, right? But I think that was going to happen anyway because of who Michigan is, right? So I drew this thing up too to show you that this is not Don Brown, right? This is a 5-man pressure with cover 1 behind it, or cover 3 behind it. It's really hard to tell. But it's not Don Brown. It's this is the same Raven system. It's just a little bit more blitzy and sometimes using different personnel to get all those guys up on the line of scrimmage. Now, could he go back to sim pressures and doing the same things that you're seeing from Minter? Possibly. I think that Michigan did not have to show a whole lot of their hands this year. So when you go back to that, you're talking about bluffing and how many you got to play some hands. Well, if you only have to play Ohio State and Washington, and then everybody else is like Penn State's offense is not scaring anybody, right? Michigan State's offense was a joke, right? Like their non-conference schedule was a joke. Iowa was not going to do anything, right? Who scared you among the offenses we played? So
Maryland, maybe.
Maryland, yeah, and not even that really. But at Alabama, they blitzed like crazy, right? They went. So Michigan actually had like I think a 60% or 58% blitz rate against Alabama in the Rose Bowl because that was a quarterback they did not think was going to be able to find the holes and get there. But they didn't have to show a lot of those hands. You could show a blitz and then not actually run it because some of these. Move on to another play. All right, so here's another blitz for.
And while you're pulling that onto the screen, Mason Graham type situation in the middle. I mean, if you guys that can eat up two guys at a time, Graham's gonna be double teamed all the time. I mean, if you have two corners like you're mentioning on the outside that can eat up one guy each, and you're going 9-on-9, you're gonna have free rushers if you got to have double teams inside. So this whole defense is predicated on, hey, where's the heat coming from? Where's the weakness, and taking advantage of the weakness in the defense on the front. And so if there's a team that has a bad guard, you're going to see more heat to the side of the bad guard.
Yeah.
I think Martindale is a good hire from that perspective, that in college, there's so much to figure out. These are pros and they can't figure it out. And excellent defenses. I think we're going to continue to be successful on defense.
Yeah. And I mean, they're doing this. So here, I'm showing you an example here against Matthew Stafford, right, where they're moving guys all around. This is exactly the Michigan game against Washington. They did all these pre-snap motions to try to get a read on the defense, right? The defense is not really moving around, so they're looking like a blitz, right? We think these guys are blitzing. He shifts a little bit like that. Quarterback's looking right at him and thinks, okay, I'm going to have space right underneath here to throw to, right? He gets that pressure. They do bring a lot of pressure. They got him throwing. They got him looking over here. They gave him this space, and look what happens out of nowhere, right? They're rolling this guy down. You can't even see him on the screen. If you go all the way back, there's just a tiny little bit of him on the screen right there. That's the guy who ends up coming down. But when they're doing all this looks and all this looks and all this looks this whole time, they're setting a trap. They're going to bring this guy right down. And this is the same exact stuff that Michigan was doing against Washington.
Yeah.
So
bait him into something that's a 5-yard gain and take away the long ball.
Yeah. So, I mean, here's the same thing, right? They're looking. We gave them a look. Michigan looks like they're blitzing. They got all these guys moving up on the line of scrimmage, right? Look at me, look at me, look at me. And he doesn't even notice. He's not looking over here and doesn't realize you got a defensive end dropping with this guy. He just sees he's just reading him high, low, high, low. He doesn't even see someone coming over here to poach it. And I mean, that could have been an interception if Stewart's playing that a little lower. It's still just a stop on 3rd and 8. And, he has this safety going deep because Derek Moore doesn't drop with him. But he's not looking at Derek Moore. He's looking at the pressure over here. Imagine this pressure back here. He's thinking about that and doesn't realize this is a defensive end dropping with a tight end. He just thinks to play it like he would with the linebacker, throws the underneath, and doesn't see the guy coming. So
and you have to have the athletes at linebacker and D end to be able to drop into coverage. I mean, you see a guy like Aiden Hutchinson still doing this with the Lions. He was good at it in college, and I think we definitely have that on this defense. So I'm excited. I mean, it feels like a safe hire that's also a home run hire in a way. In my opinion, I think it meets all the needs.
You don't know if it's a home run until the end, right? I think Jesse Minter, no one could have known he was going to be as good as he was. He looked like a perfect hire, right? It was like, okay, let's get another guy from the Ravens tree. He's had a year in, coaching for Vanderbilt. It wasn't a good year, but you're looking at Wink Martindale's defenses with the Giants. It wasn't a good year either. But you didn't really have the dudes. They were put in a lot of bad positions by their offense. It's kind of not a great franchise to work for, and I think that anyone panicking over this is crazy. I think that the floor for Wink Martindale is we just get to keep running the Ravens stuff.
Yeah.
And, you're going to have great players in this defense. There's going to be a lot of ways to use them. As far as maximizing, you know, he's seen a lot. He's done a lot of different things. He's been in a lot of different 3-4 systems all through the ages. He did coach in college 20 years ago though, but it's not like he's it's not like they just grab some dude off the street or they just rehired Don Brown, who I love Don Brown, by the way, but it's not like they're going to something that's dramatically different from what they were doing before. It's the same system, slightly different philosophy, and might have been the philosophy they're going with anyway, because last year they just had to sim pressure a little bit and didn't really start bringing crazy blitzes until late in the Washington game. And if they want to bring them earlier this year, they're going to have to, because they're going to play Ewers and early in the season, and they're going to have.
I mean, the defense
different year.
Defense may need to put some points on the board. It might need to be a little bit more aggressive. And the defense was great this past year. It was incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, it was generational. But we might need more from the defense next year.
You might not get away with what you got away with. So they were like you were mentioning, like the bluffing and the showing your hands. We didn't have to bluff that much. We got to play our hands most of the year. We just got to play whatever hands were in front of us and fold whatever we wanted to most of the year, because we didn't have to worry about anybody playing a real tough player.
Right.
Then when we bluff, you don't know. You don't know what our there's no tell, right? Because we haven't done anything yet. This year, Michigan's going to have to do some things early on. So it's not going to be like last year where you really got to save it and then, surprise Ohio State with poach coverages. Like, no one saw Michigan had that, right? And then you could bring out blitzes that no one ever seen before, because we don't need to show them against Michigan State, right? So Michigan all year was just kind of like holding back, and you're not going to do that this year. So I think you're going to see a different defense. I think Wink Martindale is going to probably dial up the pressure this year, because they've got some athletes in the back seven, and I think you're going to enjoy it, because pressure is fun.
It is fun. Right? Sacks are fun.
Yeah.
Well, Seth, this has been fun. I think we should seriously talk about doing like a top 10 offensive plays, top 10 defensive plays type breakdown. But we got more to come. We got plenty to talk about for this season. We'll see how much content
I can wring out of the last few games before we're going to
wring every little bit of this past season out that we can before really moving on to the next one. But
I want to do some Mad Magicians too. Just a little hints coming
up. It. Love it. Got to go back in the annals. All right, man.
Yeah.
Hey, go Blue. Have a good afternoon.
Go Blue, Matt.